Welcome back to Fox Recaps. Today, I will make sense of the film The Night Assistant, delivered in the year 2020. The film spins around a kid named Bart who has Asperger's disorder. He lives with his mom and fills in as a night representative at an inn. He has set reconnaissance cameras in his lodgings to notice individuals and practice discourse and motions since he struggles with connecting with others. Socially, the film begins with Bart checking out at some recording of individuals inside the lodgings. As Bart goes through the recordings, he notices various individuals managing their daily existences and impersonates the way they address practice. In the interim, he hears from his mom that supper is prepared. Shockingly, he even watches his mom through cameras and tries not to be genuinely present with her. Since he lives in a cellar room, his mother puts a plate of food at the steps and returns to the feasting table. As she has her supper, Bart notices her motions and copies her while having the food. Sometime thereafter, Bart leaves for his work at the lodging and his mom observes him from the window as he drives. In the wake of leaving his vehicle, he meets his chief on the way, who attempts to take part in an abnormal discussion with Bart. Here we understand that Bart really has inconvenience connecting with individuals. A while later, Bart attempts to relax, moving to a great extent since the lodging is not occupied and there are no new registrations. He even sniffs a magazine at a point as it is now 12 p.m. and new clients are probably not going to check in. Bart takes a rest under the table. In the meantime, a woman named Karen shows up at the inn to check in. Karen requests a booking under the name Peretti prior to making a beeline for her room. Karen inquires as to whether the room is great. Bart makes sense of the multitude of conveniences included in the room by perusing it from the PC screen, as it's challenging for him to regularly connect. While Karen requests 2 card keys, Bart sees little insights regarding her gems. Also, the manner in which she talks. He then, at that point, finds that she is a rich and courteous individual and subsequently updates her to a superior room. In the accompanying scene, we see Bart looking after Karen through the reconnaissance cameras he has set all around her room. As Karen slips into a robe and lies in bed to drink wine, Bart notices her from the front work area in his iPad. Before long, he sees somebody thumping at the gallery entryway of Karen's room. Albeit the man's face isn't clear in the recording, Bart can see him collaborating with Karen. The man looks stunned and frustrated to see Karen there. While Bart keeps on watching the film, his associate Jack shows up for his morning movement and gets Bart watching the video anyway. Jack expects it's pornography and requests that Bart leave and replaces him for the following movement. A short time later, Bart drives to the gas station and to a general store where he repurchases a few frozen yogurts and heads to his home. Later, at his storm cellar room, Bart goes through the live film of Karen's room. While he watches the video, he impersonates anything Karen is talking. She requests that the man profess to adore her. Furthermore, insults him for being associated with another young lady. She likewise makes reference to that she messaged the other young lady from the man's telephone saying he cannot meet her unexpectedly. The circumstance gets awful and the man begins beating Karen forcefully. In the midst of the upheaval, a firearm drops from Karen's sack and Bart sees it in the film. Shocked, he promptly calls the lodging's front work area, yet can't talk due to alarm. Without any choices left, he surges back to the inn to arrive at the room and stop something awful from happening. Bart parks his vehicle in the side entry and strolls into the corridor towards the room. Simultaneously Jack, who's out smoking, sees Bart's vehicle left and expects to be that. He's not left the lodging yet. Out of nowhere he hears a discharge and runs towards the room. There he finds Bart sitting in the bed, while Karen's dead body is lying on the ground. Alarmed Jack requests that Bart not touch anything and goes outside to call 911. Anyway, Bart, who can't avoid blood, contacts it and wipes it on the bed sheet. Following this, he takes out all the capacity cards from the secret cameras around the room, yet unconsciously drops one in a corner. The following morning, criminal investigator Espada cross-examines the inn proprietor Ron about Bart. Ron specifies that Bart has been working for a long time at the inn and has never been in a tough situation. Moreover, he makes sense of that regardless of his ailment. Bart is brilliant and proficient. When Espada strolls towards Bart, he promptly begins chattering about his whereabouts. Hearing his approach to talking, Espada gets to be familiar with his Asperger's condition. Bart uncovers that he returned home later, purchasing frozen yogurt at the accommodation store, and returned back as he understood that he left his wallet at work, close the candy machine. This shocks the criminal investigator and he inquires Bart about how he purchased the frozen yogurt without his wallet. This time Bart has no response. Later Bart is taken to the police station and Espada discussions with Karen's spouse at his office. Karen's significant other inquires as to whether Bart knows something about the homicide, and he too uncovers that Karen possessed a handgun for her security. Tracking down his significant other dead at an inn, he second guesses himself what she was doing there at 12 p.m. Subsequently, Bart's mom shows up at the station and contends with Espada for carrying Bart to the station in spite of his delicacy. Moreover, she tells Espada that he should converse with their legal advisor, in the future. Subsequent to censuring him, she brings Bart back home. Later she inquires as to whether he has anything to tell her and that she will continuously support him. Anyway, Bart essentially inclines his head for a kiss and strolls towards his cellar room. That evening Espada attempts to explore more about Bart's Asperger's condition. In the meantime, Bart rewatches the recording of Karen's room and finds that the man in the video has a bird tattoo on his arm. The next day Bart's manager shifts him to an alternate area of the inn. Since the lodging is little, it isn't so much that occupied. On his most memorable shift he meets a new client, Andrea Rivera, who perceives that Bart has Asperger's condition. She respectfully converses with him and looks into a room. Later we get to realize that Bart has a secret camera in his bind to shoot Andrea. In the wake of getting back home, Bart checks out the video of Andrea chatting with him in the front work area and practices how to talk. As he goes through the video, he appears to find Andrea appealing. The following morning, as Bart is going to get in his vehicle, he sees Espada keeping an eye on him. Terrified, he gracelessly advances toward a supermarket where he runs into Andrea. As they talk, Bart says he's socially off-kilter and Andrea solaces him by saying that he's savvy and furthermore has a work. She additionally uncovers that her sibling had a similar condition yet was more terrible. He was regulated for quite a while. Also, died. As the two talk, Bart becomes agreeable. Furthermore, uncovers that he watches individuals, mimics them and practices how to talk. Anyway, he doesn't make reference to about the cameras he has set up. Some other time when Bart returns home he finds that one capacity truck is absent. To add to his hopelessness, Espada has found the card in the lodging. When Espada shows the recording to Karen's spouse, the last option says that he would be able scarcely perceive her, since it's the camera film from the fitting, which as it were, shows recordings underneath the knee. He then tells Espada to capture Bart, since he was the person who got to the crime location first. Anyway, Espada says that he has no confirmation to hold him hostage. A short time later, Espada brings in Jack for further examination. Jack uncovers that when he came to the front work area, he saw Bart observing some film that appeared as though one from their lodgings. Anyway, he thought it was pornography. Sometime thereafter, Andrea shows up back at the lodging. Bart specifies that her room's AC has been fixed. Anyway, it ends up that he has fixed the secret cameras in her room. After an unpleasant night, Andrea drinks inside her room and Bart watches her from the front work area. Some time later, she goes to the pool to swim and furthermore requests that Bart join her in the accompanying scene. They sit by the pool. Also, talk as they get along. Bart asks her about the man that dropped her off at the lodging and kissed her. She doesn't respond to, however, questions him back on the off chance that he has a sweetheart, since he's apparent as odd, unsophisticated, gullible, unfashionable, and idiotic by the vast majority. He makes sense of that. He doesn't have a sweetheart. When Andrea asks what's happening inside his brain, Bart kisses her and starts to alarm. After that, anyway, she comforts him by saying all is well and requests that he sit close to her. As she strokes him, she portrays to him that forlornness causes individuals to do insane things. Saying this much, she kisses him back. Accordingly, Bart feels good and lies down on her lap. Andrea then uncovers that she's enamored with a wedded man and has been subtly seeing him for quite a while. In any case, presently, she thinks everything is befuddling and confounded. Bart, who has begun to get partial to Andrea, claims that he can be her lifeguard. Hearing this, Andrea has mournful eyes and disappears to her room and offers him great night. The next day, Bart attempts to cause himself to look overall more appealing for Andrea. So he gets a hairstyle and purchases another suit, vehicle and scent. Anyway, when he goes to the lodging to meet Andrea, he sees her with another man. Shockingly, it's a similar man who killed Karen, as he perceives the tattoo on his arm burning through no time. Bart gets back to review. However, sadly, Espada and his group have shown up to actually take a look at Bart's PCs and cameras for examination. After a touch of examination, the analysts find the hard drives unfilled. Also, face Bart about it. Anyway, in an abnormal style, Bart just answers that he erases his stuff every now and then. After Espada leaves, Bart recovers a secret hard drive and checks Andrea's outs film of the lodging with something similar. Man in her bed. The following morning, a crushed Bart lies in bed and will not go to work. Thus, his mom comes to his room and solaces him. She urges him to return to his life even after obstacles. Shockingly, Bart emerges from his storm cellar room, joins his mom for lunch, and they eat together on the eating table. Later that night, we see Karen's better half Scratch and Andrea talking in a vehicle. Here we get to know that he's the man Andrea was discussing before with Bart. This infers that Scratch is the person who killed Karen. The following morning, Andrea visits Bart at his home. Bart makes sense of that he's sorrowful due to her activities, provoking Andrea to apologize to him. She then, at that point, specifies that assuming things were various, they might have been together prior to leaving. She additionally vows to not irritate him at any point down the road. In the interim, Espada is outside Bart's home, spying, and he sees Andrea leaving. That very night, Bart watches the recording in Andrea's room when he sees Scratch Attacking her, he hurries to the inn. What's more, goes into the room. Seeing him, Scratch is shocked and promptly escapes from the inn. After this, Bart uncovers his monstrous mystery to Andrea. He shows the covered-up cameras to her, leaving her astounded. Despite the fact that Andrea is maddened that he was keeping an eye on her, Bart quiets her down, referencing that he has something greater to show. Following this, he takes her to his home. What's more, shows her the recording from Karen's room. Subsequent to watching the recording, Andrea is frightened and inquires as to whether he's shown the video to anybody, and Bart says no. In the meantime, she begins to cry since she can't choose what to do straight away. Bart comforts her and advises her to take rest. Before long, the teen Nestle and rest together in Bart's bed. The next morning, Bart finds Andrea sitting tight for him with her bag pressed. She says that she's leaving and inquires Bart to join her. When he converses with her, he understands that he doesn't have an issue looking her directly in the eyes. The two then begin making out sincerely, yet all at once Bart awakens. What's more, understands that it was all a dream. In all actuality, Andrea has gotten away with the hard drive, which had the duplicate of the recording of Karen's homicide. Also, he finds that Andrea has left Karen's weapon on his bed. In the interim, Espada goes to Andrea's inn room and tracks down the towel with blood and likewise the secret camera in her baggage. Somewhere else, Andrea gives the hard drive to Scratch, and they get in a vehicle to escape out of town. Here we get to know that Andrea, furthermore, Scratch are really sweethearts, and they had contrived to tidy up any hints that Scratch had left during the homicide. In the accompanying scene subsequent to hearing a few shots, Bart's mom calls the police for help. When Espada shows up at Bart's home, he tracks down film of Karen's murder, cooperating with a few other capacity cards. Espada likewise tracks down a note from Bart, which specifies that he ought to have given the verification before. Toward the end, Scratch and Andrea are pulled over by the police in the city and captured. In the meantime, Bart strolls inside a shopping center and notices individuals rehearsing the discussions he had recently noticed in his recording. That was all from the video. I want to believe that you enjoyed it. Buy in for more happy like this and stir things up around town button to help us out too. Leave a remark in the event that you believe we should recap your #1 film. Until next time, take care.